Welcome to the show. You could find us across all your favorite podcast platforms. You could find us on YouTube. Please remember to subscribe. This podcast is brought to you by First Seed Foods, healthy, organic Indian food without the butter, oil, or ghee, vegan Indian food without oil. I love it. My guest today is my friend Dr. Sailesh Rao, who is back from COP30 in Belem, Brazil. Sailesh has been to 5 of the COP events, Conference of the Parties, United Nations sponsored events, where Sailesh makes the case that animal agriculture is, in fact, the leading cause of climate change, which viewers of this show, I think, understand. Sailesh, welcome to the show.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Glenn.
Now, I'm guessing that you like Indian food,
I
don't you,
love
Sailesh?
that food.
Yeah.
Paneer
Have you ever had
makhani.
First Seed Foods? You get it
Yeah,
without the oil, and
yeah,
it comes to your door. It's delicious.
awesome.
All right.
Yeah, except I make that myself, the
I am
paneer
sure you do.
makhani. Yeah.
So, Sailesh, you've been trying to make the case with climatehealers.org for many years
Mhm.
that animal agriculture is the leading cause of climate change. You've been to 5 COP events over the past 14 years or so, from COP uh, 17 now to COP
Mhm.
30.
Right.
Uh, is the word getting out? Are people at these events catching on?
The last COP I went to was in Glasgow, COP 21. I mean, COP 26 in Glasgow.
Right. That was the one where I wrote Food is Climate to try to get it to
Correct.
you in time. And
Right.
you gave the book to Al Gore as he entered an elevator.
Exactly. And we gave away thousands of those books
Yeah.
to participants there. And after that, I got so frustrated with the entire COP process because they had ticker tapes with the names of corporations who were sponsoring the COP. And I said, come on, it's so blatant that they are not really serious about it. So I said, I'm not going to go to another COP unless it's 100% vegan. Okay. And obviously, this one wasn't 100% vegan, but yet I
Right.
went
So how come you went?
because the Loving Head team contacted me and they said, please come. You don't have to go inside the blue zone. You can just come to the green zone and just talk to the people. So give presentations to the people about the role of animal agriculture and the environment. And so they made a persuasive case, don't give up on everybody. Just whoever wants to come to the green zone can come and hear you.
Now tell us the difference between the green zones and the blue zones and any other color zones there may be.
Yeah, there are only two color zones in the
Okay.
UN COP meetings. Usually there are only two color zones. There's a blue zone where you have to have a badge to get in, where all the negotiators are negotiating and they're trying to figure out how to solve the problem. So the delegates from all the nations are there. So there are pavilions for each nation. There are NGOs, observers, NGOs, non-governmental organizations, who are invited as observers. And so they also have booths and where the real work is done according to them.
Yeah, the
But
real work of promising to cut down on fossil fuel emissions.
right. And in fact, at COP30, by the time they finished, they didn't even mention fossil fuels in the agreement. Even fossil fuels got dropped because there were 1,600 fossil fuel lobbyists who had come to the blue
So what did
zone.
they promise to do this time?
Nothing, you know.
Oh,
It was all about financing, and the financing is all, I mean, it's on paper. No one really commits anything. Anyway, I was asked to come to the green zone, not to the blue zone. So I said,
and what
okay, I'll come.
happens in the green zone?
Green zone is where the public is allowed to come in. So it's a public area. So the local people get to understand the COP process. There are booths from different organizations. where they explain how they're working on climate change. So there are lots of, there's a lot of uh, education going on, a lot of showcasing of new technologies going on in the blue and green zone. Excuse me. So Loving Hut had a booth in the green zone. And but this is the first COP that I went to. There was a third zone. It was
Okay.
unofficial zone.
And what was the third zone?
It's called the Agri Zone. And Agri Zone was funded entirely by the animal agriculture industry.
Wow.
And it was bigger than the blue zone and the green zone combined.
Oh my God.
It's a huge, area that they took over, and they had they had like 400 different events in that agri zone. But he had to register, and I mean, he had to come in and register for free, but you have to give them your email, so that
But
before
were
you
they
enter.
promising that with more animal agriculture, the climate will get cooler? What were they?
Yes,
Yes.
it was so
Are they going
blatant.
to put fans on the cows?
They were going to put
How are they going
masks
to
on the cows.
they're going to put masks on the cows? What else are they going to do?
They were going to let trees grow around the grass where the cows are so that you can have more forests. When you eat beef, you'll create more forests. Of course, those trees,
So, for the last 10,000 years, they've been cutting down trees for the cows.
right,
Now they're going to start growing trees for the cows?
right, right. So they even had a poster saying more beef equals more forests.
How do they explain that?
That's the explanation, is that we have places where we have trees and cows are grazing.
Are they planning to teach cows how to climb trees?
The cows will still be eating the grass that's growing under the trees. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's the idea. But of
But how
course,
come they never thought of that before?
well, what happens is that when you leave the trees behind, there are wild animals there who want to do other things, and they
Hmm.
may not let the grass grow as well. Number one.
Oh.
And number two, they may also come and eat the grass, right? So this is why you chop it all down so that all the wild animals are gone, and then you grow just the grass. That's the old way of doing things. And so they were pretending that they are now going to do it in a different way. They'll allow forests to come back. So all kinds of so
But it's
the
interesting, Silas. They are in effect conceding the argument.
yeah, they are
They're saying, oh, yes, Silas and the climate healers, they're right that if the forests come back, that would cool the climate and that grazing is an obstacle. But you
Mhm.
know what? We don't need to do that clear cutting for the grazing anyway. So we'll just have the cows walk around the trees.
right.
And that's not going to happen.
Yeah, yeah. So uh, because fundamentally they kill animals. They kill all the wild animals off because they're competition for
Yeah.
the cows. Yeah.
Yeah. The planet was not actually designed to house just cows and people, right?
Right. Yeah. So it's interesting, because it showed me that they were scared. They're scared of what's going to come down the pike for them. So they're sort of preempting it by doing this agri zone. And they had barbecues and they had all kinds of enticements. But the delegates were actually eating our food, the vegan food. They were asking Loving Hut to give them vegan food. So Min, who's running a restaurant, Loving Hut restaurant in Phoenix, he was leading the Loving Hut delegation, and he had a whole list of people who were asking, subscribing for food, for
Uh-huh.
lunch. So
And so, did you meet there any people who were getting converted to the idea that animal agriculture is in fact the leading cause of global warming?
I met a few people who came to the green zone, who heard my talk, and the delegate from Sri Lanka actually came and videotaped my talk entirely, and he's going to go back and think about it. And There are quite a few other country delegates who came. Because, the green zone is where you interact with the public, so the delegates,
Hmm.
when they feel like they want to go and interact with the public, they come to the green zone to see what is going on. What are they all talking about?
Right.
And our talks were packed. I was surprised at how well received it was.
How many people did this room hold that where you spoke?
Uh, well, the chairs, maybe we had 40 odd chairs in the booth with 30 or 40 chairs. But it was, I mean, the standing room, I have pictures of people just crowding and standing around listening. And it's not even, I'm speaking in English. And, so they had to have a translator in Portuguese who would tell the locals what we were saying. And what I found that they really liked was the idea that we can solve the problem, okay, by changing our food habits, by changing how we treat animals. And number two, we are joining everyone in the world to solve the problem. You know, so this idea of we are all working on this together from around the world.
Hmm.
That's what they really liked most. So they want to be part of something much larger, like all of us do. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Um,
because there is, I mean, I was talking from the perspective of the seven planetary boundaries, not just climate change. And I was telling them climate change is actually number four out of seven, even though it's getting all the oxygen in the media. And that going vegan is the only thing that I know of that addresses all seven planetary boundaries, transgressions. So if everybody went vegan, we can help mitigate all seven of these problems simultaneously.
right.
Yeah.
Now, are there any nations on Earth that you feel are making more progress than other nations and are heading in the right direction?
I am most encouraged by Bhutan
Oh.
at the moment.
Bhutan
Um,
has a constitution that I wrote about in Food and Climate in which tree coverage is actually guaranteed. So I forget, it's something like 90% of the country has to have tree coverage. It's
right.
actually guaranteed in the Constitution.
Good. Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
But
not
you know,
like they also they eat meat, I think, but they're banning slaughterhouses there.
good,
So, but they're getting all their meat slaughtered by somebody else. And so I'm saying, I mean, ultimately, I think it will become a vegan country
okay,
because it's about time, because we have to create a place where people can look to and say, okay, that it's possible to live like that
right. Well,
completely.
good for Bhutan, but are there any more populous countries that are
Ah,
heading in the right direction?
before I went to Brazil, I went to China.
Did you?
Yeah, and I was there in Hangzhou for the Asia Pacific Vegan Festival and Asia Pacific Vegetarian Union's Vegan Festival. And they were telling me uh, that in Vietnam the year before they had over 1 million people come through the vegan festival. It's a week-long vegan festival they
Hmm.
had in Vietnam. So, but even China, it was packed. I don't know if 1 million people came through, but it's possible in China. But it was packed. There were like 200 booths, and people are milling about, trying different things. And we had talks. There were talks going on, and everyone, and it was all translated by AI into Chinese when you give talk in English. And those who give talks in Chinese, you get the translation in English by AI. So it's happening simultaneously
Mm.
instead of
Well,
a
China
human
was a
being.
much healthier country 30 years ago or so
Right. Yeah. Before it happened.
before they've started importing our way of eating.
Right. Yeah.
All right. So you have a presentation that you gave at COP 30 that you're going to be good enough to share with us here on the show, right?
Yes, I'm happy to do that.
Now let's see that.
So this is the presentation I was giving there. It's Planet B, presentation
Hmm.
on Planet B, climate justice, veganism, and bold change. So I come at it from a very systems engineering angle. So I talk about how would systems engineers solve problems. Typically we are asked to solve problems. This is our specialty. And if you were to ask systems engineers to solve climate justice, how would they do it? So that was the premise. So I begin by talking about what are systems. A system is a organized framework for solving a problem. And we have systems in everywhere. We have human engineered systems, we have life systems, life support systems. Like our body has lots of systems, a circulatory system, a nervous system, an immune system, and so on. And when all these systems are working well, we are healthy. But if any one system gets messed up, let's say a circulatory system stops working, it can bring down all the other systems and you die. So death is a catastrophic failure of systems. And we have studied millions of human beings, so we understand how human beings function and how human beings die. But we have only one planet that we have studied. And our planet has systems like that to support life. It's got a water circulation system that cleans the water. It's got an oxygen producing system, a carbon cycle, a nitrogen cycle, a phosphorus cycle. These are all cycles that are necessary to maintain life on the planet. And our human engineered systems have been in conflict with the life support systems of the planet. And we have been trying to solve this problem for the last 30 years. Okay. This is the 30th meeting of the Conference of the Parties. And yet we haven't solved them. Why is that? Why is that? Because we have been looking at these systems and trying to solve the problem using what I call the drunkard's search principle. Okay. What is the drunkard search principle? Well, a drunkard was looking for something under a street light, and a policeman asks him, "So, what are you looking for?" He says, "I'm looking for the keys I dropped on the other side of the street." Policeman says, "What? You dropped keys on the other side of the street and you're looking for it here? Why would you do that?" He said, "Because this is where the light is." So, that's exactly how we have been trying to solve climate change or climate justice, world peace, planetary health, by looking for a solution that would grow the economy. So that's the light we use. If it doesn't grow the economy, it is not a valid solution. So we don't look for it. Okay? And this is why we are not able to solve the problem. Now, what has happened as a result of that is that we have now crossed the seventh planetary boundary. So there are seven planetary boundaries that we have crossed. So these are the life support systems. They should all be in the green zone for the planet to sustain life on the, you know. But there are seven of them that we have pushed outside the green zone. The one that we just recently pushed outside the green zone is ocean acidification. It's down here. And so that just crossed the green zone into the yellow zone in 2025. The next
Silas,
was,
is this according to UN measurements?
this is according to the Planetary Health Check report of, it's a group of scientists who have been working on this for the last 16 years. They started in 2009.
So they measure average ocean acidification around the
Correct.
world.
Correct. They measure as average ocean acidification, and they now said that it's just crossed the limit. So it's causing shelled animals difficulty in building shells, and because it's too acidic, and if that happens, then they die off, and when they die off, they impact the food chain in the ocean. The next is, of course, freshwater change. So you can see there are color coding, right? There is, if it is yellow, it's just crossed the green zone. So it's not so bad. We could probably pull it back very quickly. Orange is difficulty. If it's in the red zone, that's a serious problem. It's like a chronic disease that you have, the planet has. And if it is pink, like this pink stuff on the outside, it is at high risk of destabilizing the life support systems of our planet. Okay. Now, you know what happens when you destabilize a life support system within a human being? He dies.
Hmm.
Why would you want to destabilize the life support systems of a planet that you're living on? You know, if you're at high risk of destabilizing, we should be focusing on that full time, right? And the number one thing that we have destabilized is biodiversity, biosphere
Uh,
integrity. It's the loss of wild animals. You go out and look, hardly any birds are there. You hardly see any wild animals out there now because they are basically dwindling very, very fast. And this is the reason why I said we need to address this by 2026. Okay,
and
that we all
and
have
we've
to go.
lost biodiversity because we have reduced animal populations largely to humans and what we call food animals.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cows, pigs, chickens, turkeys.
Yeah.
And so all the land, all the farming is devoted to what we eat.
Yeah.
We stupidly eat animals.
Yeah. So that's the main reason. That's 80% of the reason for the loss of biodiversity. But there are other reasons. And these other things that I'm going to show you are about the other reasons. The
Okay.
next is, the next one that's in the pink zone is what they call novel entities, which is really chemical pollution of the
Right.
planet. Okay? So we are pouring from our industrial processes 220 billion tons of chemicals into the environment every year. And it doesn't go away when you pour it out there. It stays there. So every year you're pouring another 220 billion tons. See, so the earth is marinating in this chemical pollution. And it's in the water. It gets into when it's in the water, the plants absorb it. And the plants are trying to filter the water because that's their job. Transpiration is to filter the water and make sure that the water circulation, the water is pure, and then all the other impurities are kept in the plants or in the trees. Okay. So, and they're getting overwhelmed because every year you add another 220 billion tons. That's also in the pink zone, high risk of destabilizing the life support systems of our planet. Then comes nitrogen. This nitrogen is in the red zone, which is slightly bigger than even climate change. Okay. And that one is from all the fertilizer we use. And that fertilizer runs off into the water and it basically over fertilizes the bottom of rivers and it causes oxygen to be depleted in the water. So the fish die from lack of oxygen. And that causes dead zones in the mouths of rivers in the ocean as well. And that is actually killing more life today than even climate change. Climate change is the fourth worst. And yet, that's where the street light is. Everybody is looking for solutions under that street light. And the street light is not on every aspect of climate change, it's only on the fossil fuel aspect of climate change.
Now, is the climate change the yellow triangle there?
It's this entire segment is climate change. I put a yellow triangle there to say that's where the light is, right?
Oh,
So
that's the light you're referring to?
yeah, that's the light I'm referring to, the street
But
light
the
that we're
the
looking
the
under
the whole triangle there with the
is climate
red
change.
and the yellow.
The red and this orange. So this one is
Mm,
for CO2 concentration. It's not quite in the red zone. This is the radiative forcing, which is the total amount of heating that we do. And that's in
mhm.
the red zone. And that's mainly from animal agriculture. So they don't look at that. They look at the CO2 concentration and they say, oh, the CO2 is mostly from fossil fuels because they have figured out how to measure it properly, so that you don't look at the contribution of animals. So that's how we have
So, I
been
mean, we're worried
searching.
about CO2 concentrations because of its effect on radiative forcing. But the radiative forcing is already in the alarming zone, the alarm
Right.
zone,
Yeah.
and the CO2 isn't, so that gives them the possibility of saying, "Oh, we're looking at the CO2 and it's not quite so dire yet." Right?
Well, it's being framed as a green growth story, right? If we just buy solar panels and electric cars, we can address that issue. And so this is why, you always have a light around growth, economic growth.
Are they
Uh,
making solar panels now that sequester carbon dioxide?
no,
No.
no, it's only about not adding more. Okay.
Right.
It
Exactly.
never
Which
addresses
is the
the,
absurdity of their whole argument, their whole approach, because even if we had zero burning of fossil fuels tomorrow, none of their strategies involve sequestering more carbon dioxide.
yeah.
And
They're
so
building machines for that. They build
there are
machines for
other
that.
sources of greenhouse gases,
Right.
including cows,
Right.
including deforestation.
There's
So
methane.
unless there
Yeah,
is no strategy that could work that does not involve increased sequestration of carbon dioxide. Am I right?
absolutely.
See, and
There
I'm
is,
not even a systems engineer, and I could figure that out. I could
see,
understand that.
as a systems engineer, I look at this problem and I say, you have to figure out a solution that addresses all of them,
Right,
not just that little yellow thing where the
right.
media is focused on, right? You have to address all of them. And the only thing I know that will address all of them is what I call the vegan rewilding solution, which is go vegan as quickly as possible and return land back to nature. And and so they don't look at that because they're focused only on economic growth. So that's the point I was making.
Yeah,
Now, if you look at the other while planetary boundaries, you clearly see that the leading cause is food, the food system. That's the black dots.
yeah,
Okay. That was from a paper by Campbell in 2017. But in Campbell's paper, they said food is not the leading cause of climate change. See, climate change is down here. Food is not the leading cause of climate change. This is why everybody focuses on food because you don't want to change people's habits. You just want to give them solar panels and electric cars to buy. And that's how you maintain the system, right? So they're pretending because even that is not true because it's how you count that matters. But
right.
even if you say, okay, you're right, food is not the leading cause of climate change, you should be addressing food because of all the others. You have no choice but to address food. You have no choice but to address our lifestyle. Okay. So that's why I say it's such a dishonest discourse that's going on at the UN. And even climate change, when you look at the entire how we use land, that's the key. And this is the reason why food is the leading cause of all the other transgressions. Why? Because of how much land we are needing to feed our animals. So if you look at these arrows here are all, the bigger the arrow, the more stuff you're taking out. Okay. So thicker the arrows. And you see the livestock system, this is what they call, this is for the animals. The amount of food that our animals eat exceeds the biomass we need for all other human activities combined. Okay. And in fact, if you look at the thickness of the arrow of the food that we are eating, which is on the right-hand side here, the blue line that comes in, and this one that comes directly from plants, this amount is less than the waste from the animals alone. So the animals' waste is greater than all the food we eat. And if you trace how much food the animals are giving us, it's that thin line that comes out of this. Okay, that goes in here to this food processing block. Then it gets mixed with all the plants. You see, the plant is much, much thicker than the animals. And that produces this blue bar. Okay. So if you look at how much animal food we're getting on our plate, then for every, you can show that for every pound of animal food we get on our plate, the animals had to be fed 39 pounds of food. That's the average for milk, eggs, and meat all put together. So this is why the food system is also the leading cause of climate change, because all that land that got used and all the biomass we're extracting, it's all part of the carbon cycle. That he took it out of
Right.
the carbon cycle. The great thing about nature is that nature has been desperately trying to undo our damage. She's trying to heal, like our body tries to heal. Even though we are abusing it, the body is trying to heal. Nature is trying to heal as well. So we have cut half the trees on the planet over the last 10,000 years. And yet the oxygen levels in the atmosphere has not gone down. Why is that? Because the remaining trees are doing double duty work. They're producing,
How did that happen? How did the remaining trees become
they
twice
start
as
doing double
efficient?
duty work. Well, their photosynthesis increases, as you
Well,
increase the
because of more
CO2 level.
CO2 in the atmosphere, right?
Exactly, yeah. Because there's more CO2 in the atmosphere, photosynthesis increases and it produces more oxygen. Each tree is
Right. But
producing more oxygen than it used to.
what
This is
about
how the
oxygen from phytoplankton?
we get them from phytoplankton also. But
Is that being reduced?
that is also being impacted by the chemicals. But still, somehow, if you look at the oxygen level in the atmosphere, it doesn't come down by much.
Right.
Okay. Now, that's good news. But it also says that, despite what we have been doing, we didn't understand this. Despite what we've been doing, nature has somehow managed to sustain us. But at some point, this thing can just collapse, just like it does in the fresh water.
Right.
The
And
fish,
oxygen in the atmosphere isn't our big problem right now, right? Our big problem is loss of biodiversity,
loss of
loss of
biodiversity,
clean water,
right?
and a heating planet.
A heating planet. It's also the chemical pollution that's causing all
Right.
the causing cancer for us. It's causing cancer for animals also, and they're dying. And the Earth is not able to sustain this, level of chemical pollution. So then I showed, this land use block diagram. So you can see 85% of our food is coming from plants already. And we are doing that on just half the cropland. So just 6% of the land area of the planet is producing 85% of the food we eat. 12% of the food we eat comes from animals, for which we are using 43% of the land area of the planet. 37% for grazing, 6% for cropland. So more than half the cropland output is going to feed our animals. Wild animals are only in 9% of the land area of the planet. 22% of the land area of the planet is monoculture trees, which is classified as forests by the UN, but it's really just monoculture trees. And wild animals cannot live there because they need a variety of things, right? It's not you can if you can only survive off pine trees, you can live there. Otherwise, you cannot. Excuse me. And then 19% of the land is unused land, deserts and mountains, and 1% is cities and shopping centers and so on. And then 3% of our food comes from the ocean, for which we are bottom trawling an area the size of South America every year to grab the last remaining fish in the ocean. So it's really going from 85% to 100%. And stop using animals for any purpose whatsoever. That's when you can remove that livestock system block and return land back to nature. Because that is the key to solving our problem. To solving all seven planetary boundary transgressions, if you can return 40% of the land back to nature, like what would happen if we went to 100% plant-based, not just for our food, but for all purposes. So this is what I mean, a vegan world. Okay. So you don't use animals for any purpose whatsoever, then you can return 40% of the land back to nature. And we can continue living our life. We don't have to change too much. We can still eat, we can still have shelter, we can still have clothing, we can thrive in a world like that. In this world, you can reforest on this land, which means you can bring back the biodiversity. We can return the 3 trillion trees that we cut, so you can restore that. And those new trees will suck up the chemical pollution and store it in their trunks. So it addresses chemical pollution also. Okay. And then it will address climate change because it sucks down the carbon and puts it in land. So it reduces the CO2 in the atmosphere. So when it reduces the CO2 in the atmosphere, it not only addresses climate change, it also addresses ocean acidification. It will clean the water because the forest will start cleaning up the water again. The freshwater change problem goes away. And land use change problem goes away because you're returning 40% of the land back to nature. So this is one simple thing that we do. It addresses all 7 planetary boundary transgressions.
Biodiversity comes back because the
Right,
forests come back with the habitat.
exactly. And you return the ocean back to nature. So the fish come back,
Yeah.
when you stop fishing. So this is why I say nature is the perfect system design. Nature has given us this one simple thing that we can do together, which is to stop exploiting animals and start treating animals with respect because we need them on this planet to maintain the life support systems of the planet. We need them. And if we don't have the life support systems functioning properly, we are going to die. It's like you're a cell in a body and you're thinking, hey, I'm getting my food, I'm getting my oxygen, I'm getting my waste taken away. So I don't need this guy who's living. What? If the person dies, you're going to die as a cell, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we haven't figured out yet, right? That we need the life support systems to be functioning properly for us to thrive. But unfortunately, I believe it's not going to happen in the current system. So the so I am a firm believer in the Bakana Institute's two loops theory of change, which says that big living systems cannot be changed from within. You can only abandon them and start a different loop that works. So you have to create a new system for a vegan world. Okay, that's what they said, and they have evidence to show. So I studied their two loops theory of change, and basically they talk about how do we create this two loops theory of change, and that involves stewards and innovators and hospice workers and eliminators and so on. But I had to first, okay, verify that they're correct. So I go through the a systems engineering approach to do this transformation. First, I verify whether the two-loop theory of change is correct or not. So I call it system intractability, validate that. And then I identify the foundational myths in the current system. These are falsehoods that we have built our system on. And anything that we build on a foundation of falsehoods collapses eventually because nature is all about the truth. So you have to replace foundational myths with foundational axioms, the truths. Then you have to drop invalid goals because these goals are the one that make us go in the wrong direction. So if your goal is economic growth, you will never find solutions to some of these problems because you're trying to grow the economy. So I identify invalid goals and I say you have to drop those and then include valid goals like zero animal exploitation, which make all the other goals easy to meet. So I'm beginning with the UN Sustainable Development Goals and I'm saying if I were to really try to meet that, what would I need to do? Okay. Because 195 nations have signed on to meet these goals by 2030. I said, you signed on to meet these goals. Let me help you. I'm a systems engineer. I can help you. You have to drop goal number 8 and add goal number 18. Okay, that's what I do. And then you have to design a planet that works for everybody. So you have to design a planet that meets all the goals. And then you have to figure out transition pathways on policy, markets, culture, learning, tech, and scaling, on helping people transition from planet A to planet B. So that's my planet B systems engineering framework. And that's what I presented at the UN. And I call it the world of planet A turned upside down. This is why I wrote a book. It says upside down. So you have to read it upside down. So legacy systems, you validate them by showing that colonialism is still going on. Even though we pretended to give everybody independence in the 1960s and 1950s, um, it's still going on. Okay, it's going on in an underhanded way. Colonialism is still going on. Slavery is still going on, despite its abolishment in the 1860s. How are they doing it? Well, by throwing people in jail and then making them work for free as slave labor. It's jail labor. So I use these two as examples to show that legacy systems are still continuing despite the abolishment. And then the foundational myths, endless growth as the master objective, which is why we are not able to solve problems on planet A. And consumption and commodification of social logic, telling people that happiness comes from consuming things and you can commodify animals to make that happen. Separation from nature and human exceptionalism, pretending that we are superior to other beings, and misspecified responsibility for ecological breakdown, pretending it's all caused by fossil fuels and nothing to do with animal agriculture. And finally, looking for technological solutions for environmental constraints, saying that the next new thing that we're going to come up with will solve all our problems. Just wait for the next inventor to solve the problem. I say these are all foundational myths that we operate on planet A. And to create a system that actually works, you have to build it on truths like interdependence of all life, non-violence and zero animal exploitation, sufficiency over growth, honesty and humility as design criteria, universal provisioning within planetary limits, making sure that you meet everyone's needs without them having to go hungry, distributed participatory governance, and technology subordinated to life. So to me, it's you have to build a system on the correct axioms. Otherwise, it will fall apart sooner or later. Drop invalid goals. Economic growth is an invalid goal because everybody has been pretending to meet all the goals by just growing the economy. And I say, if you meet the other goals, you don't need to, and if you don't grow the economy, is not a valid solution? So why is economic growth a goal? It can be an outcome in some places, but it does not have to be a goal. And invalid goals make us look in the wrong direction. Include valid goals like zero animal exploitation. It makes us look in the right direction. So can we solve the problem without exploiting animals? Because we have to get to a situation where we are respecting animals because they are our fellow beings who are maintaining the life support systems of our planet. So we need them. And that's why I say we have to become vegan, vitally engaged guardians of animals and nature, which is the official definition is a way of living that seeks to exclude as far as is possible and practicable all forms of exploitation of animals for food, clothing, or any other purpose. And when we can live like that, we don't need a livestock system block. And we can remove that block and then return land back to nature. And we go vegan for the ecology, for health, for spirituality, or for ethics. But ultimately, we begin to see all four aspects of this vegan lifestyle. And so I say begin with the UN SDGs. They were a great thing to start with, but remove goal number 8, add goal number 18. Now we can get serious about actually meeting them by 2030. Okay. And I said I'm here, I'm happy to help any nation that wants to actually meet them by 2030. And and we have to do this as if our house is on fire. Because when a house is on fire, we don't say, "Where is my coffee?" And like Glenn drinking his coffee right now. Or
It's water.
it's water, okay. Or where is my tea? How come I don't have milk in my tea? You don't ask questions like that. You pick up a bucket and you put out the fire. Okay? That's what we need to be doing. Why? Because our planet is on fire. It was a three-alarm fire. I mean, there were three planetary boundaries crossed in 2009, became four in 2015, and six in 2023, and seven in 2025. My God, I mean, when will we wake up and say, our life support systems are getting destroyed. And if at some point that pink line, the pink versions give up on us, we can't breathe, we can't eat. Something is going to happen like that. Something drastic is going to happen like that. So we have to take this seriously. We have to treat it as if our house is on fire. And I say this is the greatest transformation in human history. Our ancestors started this project 50,000 years ago, and we've been heating the planet for the last 10,000 years. Everybody has been heating. Every generation has been heating. Ours is the first generation that has to start cooling. So we have to make that U-turn. And if you don't make that U-turn and you go straight, there's a clown standing outside a fast food place saying, "Come, come, come," and he's going to kill you if you go in there. So, but we have a choice to make because, as I said, this is a transformation from fear to love, from control to lack of control, to loss of control. See, you don't have to control anymore. It has to be voluntary. Everyone has to do this together. And I say that with love comes freedom to choose. And this is the book, There's a Planet B, and you can download it from this website and
People can find the book at climatehealers.org.
/for you/books. All my books are there, and all my books, the PDF is available for free that you
Okay.
can download. And I also wrote a paper on this called Planet B, a systems engineering framework for world peace and planetary health. It's co-authored with Jared Bishop, and the preprint is there on that link over there. And the paper has just gone through the review process. I have to just do one more thing, and it should be published after that. I have to do a video abstract for it.
And do you have some photos to share from Brazil?
Yes, I have. Let me start by showing you uh, the map of the green zone and the blue zone and the
Okay.
agri zone. So you
In
can
the
see.
agri-zone.
So you can see, this is the green zone
Mm-hmm.
and the blue zone, and they were co-located. So basically, people were coming from the blue zone into the green zone, and vice versa. And there is security in both zones, but when you get into the blue zone, you have to show a badge, and the badge is scanned, and then they let you in. And this is the agri zone. It's a couple of miles away from the blue zone and the green zone, and it's bigger than the blue and the green put together. And this is where all the animal agriculture people were there, and it's basically funded by the corporations. This is a UN facility, also funded by corporations, meaning UN is taking money from corporations, the sponsors for all these things. But thankfully, at this UN COP, they didn't have ticker tapes with all the corporate sponsors. They didn't have a ticker tape, so they didn't make it so obvious that it's all bought and paid for.
Okay.
And people were much more open to the idea that we have to eat plant-based foods. That we have to go to a vegan world to
And
solve
what
our
was the
problems.
incentive for either the official uh, representatives of nations around the world in the blue zone or for the climate activists in the green zone? What was the incentive to go 2 miles away to the agri zone? How did they try to lure people there?
They were giving them free food,
Ah, free
barbecues, and
free cooked burgers and things.
right, yeah, free food, and then they were saying, okay, we'll show you how we can do this without you having to change your lifestyle and so on. So it's a story they're telling, right? And but so we had the Loving Hut team had a booth in the green zone, and then from there we were giving away free food in the blue zone. So we were giving away free vegan food.
So somebody from Loving Hut was able to get into the blue zone to give away
Yeah,
food?
quite a few of them had blue badges to get in, and we would bring in like 12 huge bags of food. you know.
And would they
And
hand out messages with the food?
there was a sticker on top and stuff like that. Yeah. So, but people knew, I mean, it, it was clear that the delegates, they all know. They are pretending not to know. They all know that what they're working on is not, the right thing to do. I mean, this
Well, I
presentation that I
find
gave.
myself wondering
Mm,
if someone has been going to these COPs for 30 years
mm,
with this focus on, I call it the Al Gore focus,
right,
on solar panels and electric cars.
right.
Okay, after 30 years, how are we doing? Right? I mean, there's every year there's the count of CO2 in the atmosphere goes up.
Right.
Every year the planet gets hotter.
Yeah.
So do they ever get to a point in which they say this isn't working?
It's always the future. They always promise something in the future. Oh, it's going to
We're
get
going to have
better.
so many solar panels next year
Right.
that will start cooling the planet. Uh,
You know what um, Jeff Bezos said a
what?
few years ago? He said, if we keep growing the economy at the current rate, by 2100, there will have to be more solar panels than what we can pave on every square inch of the Earth's surface to meet the energy needs of humanity. So therefore, we have to go to space. It never occurs to him you need to stop the growth,
let's let's send
Nothing in
him
nature
there.
grows forever, okay? There's no system that allows you to grow forever. That nothing in nature grows forever. I mean, if we grew at the same rate that we were growing as children, we would be 100 feet tall by the time we die.
Yeah,
So nature wisely stops us from growing after age of 18 or 20, You
yeah.
stop growing and you plateau. And then eventually when you're getting really old, you start shrinking a bit.
Hmm.
I'm there now.
Yeah.
But why is it that we think that human systems can grow forever? I mean, everybody's trying to grow the economy. Even those who are consuming at 4 or 5 times what the planet can support are trying to grow the economy. I'm saying this is foolishness 101. You know, this is why the system solutions are not working for any of them. You have to address uh, the fundamental goal, fundamental myths of our system, and you have to abandon them. There is no such thing as infinite growth, number one. And animals are not here as commodities. They're not commodities. So, and people ask me, like, how would you stop this? If you were the boss of the world, how would you stop this? How would you make the transition happen? And I explained, and I said, the first thing I would do is ban artificial impregnation of animals. You're not allowed to stick your hand in there. Okay.
I thought you were going to say ban slaughterhouses.
No, first ban that.
Okay.
No, because slaughterhouses are the end product. You're chopping them up the end. This is the beginning. I say, stop impregnating animals. Stop ejaculating animals. Call that statutory rape. Okay. That would collapse the industry right away. And it would stop bringing new animals into the world who are all being abused and who are being chopped up when they're still babies and eaten. Right. So that will immediately, within a few months, the prices of everything is going to shoot through the roof. That's based on animals, and then we will see the transition happen very quickly. And then I would say for the currency system, you have to transition the currency system because its currency system is currently based on debt, and that's what makes everybody want to grow. Without that debt-based if you created a currency system that's not about growth, it won't be about debt. It has to be about allowances, not debt. So I would say for the currency system, I would say um, tell people All debt is forgiven as of today. So maybe, pick a date and say on that day, you can burn all your mortgages, you can burn everything. All your debt is forgiven. Everybody's debt is forgiven. Now, all the money that's in your bank, okay, you can use to create Planet B. But that money is going to disappear. It'll be invalid currency within 1 year. So that's how it make the transition happen. So then, you have to create a new currency that's all about allowances for people. And then you have to create systems around that. So where you are incentivized to restore the planet, to clean up the mess we have made. And you get paid to do that.
Um, any photos from Brazil?
Oh yeah, I'll show you some photos from the green zone.
Mm-hmm.
There are, so we got a cow there.
Mm-hmm. The inflatable cow?
Yeah. Let me just open them all. Yeah. Yeah. You can see the energy, right? I mean, it is packed. So
Mm-hmm.
that's my presentation. It's on the TV there. And there were people standing outside, saying, you have to go vegan. What is your water footprint? And there's Vega the cow standing outside
Yeah.
a booth.
Now that was the cow that was created for the Glasgow Cup, right?
She's a smaller version of the one that
Okay.
was created in Glasgow because the Glasgow version was much bigger. It's double the size.
Okay.
And she started leaking all over the place. So she doesn't stay up anymore. She was too thin, because we had to make her float in air.
Uh-huh.
So she started leaking in all the seams. And you can see now, like uh, that's what I was saying. It was so well received. I was surprised. And I'm glad I went there. And of course, they had their own pig and cow costume and things they were using.
Who was wearing the pig head there?
It's this lady who was yeah, she was
Oh,
wearing the pig costume.
from Mother Hut,
Yeah, from Loving Hut,
Loving Hut.
Yeah, she came from China. So the Loving Hut had 70 people come from all over the world. 30 of them were cooking. They were in the cooking team.
Mm-hmm.
They're cooking all day, thousands of meals. And there were some who were in the outside the blue zone holding signs up. And then some people were distributing the food, and there were videographers taking videos of everything. So it was amazingly well organized.
Mm-hmm.
So that's again in the green zone. Yeah, that's all I have.
Okay.
So next year when we go to Turkey, so I'm planning next year to go for the full 2 weeks because this is it, folks. You better get it sorted out by next year, right? So I'm going there for the full 2 weeks, and we're going to have a Planet B booth. That's the plan, at least. Yeah, both in the green zone and hopefully in the blue zone as well, where
Okay.
we can give presentations on Planet B and give away food, and get everyone to sign on to actually creating a system transformation that needs to happen.
All right. Um, so I have called you the Avatar of Optimism. So let's end on an optimistic note. What optimistic trends do you see that give us hope that we could reverse what's been going on?
Number one, that agri zone was a sign to me saying that the meat industry is now running, it's running scared. Okay. And number two, I gave 15 presentations at the COP, totally. And I never really got a question about why should we do this? I always got questions about how do we do this? How do you envision this transitioning? How do we see this happening? People are curious uh, about how rather than why. Okay, that's the second good sign. And the third thing I would say is, I always see the bright side of things, right? I have faith in humanity. I found that the people of Brazil, who are, I mean, simple people, who are mostly, these are Amazonians, who are most, I think the Green Zone had over 300,000 people come through over the 2 weeks. And the Blue Zone had about 50,000 people come through. Okay. And the people of Brazil, when they heard this and they said, you know, we if we do this, who else is doing this? I said, people all over the world are doing this. There are 200 million vegans around the world, and we are all working on this. We all have to work together to heal the earth. I could see their faces light up. They want to be part of something much larger. They want to be something part of something that is giving them meaning to their life. Okay? So I feel that this is inevitable. I don't see any other way to address all seven of these planetary boundary transgressions. There is no other way. Okay? So we have to keep at it. We have to tell them, listen, there is a solution. And why would you give up without trying the solution?
Well, the president of Brazil, Lula, has
Mm.
cut back, I know, on the destruction of the Amazon, but they're still destroying it, aren't they?
Right. Yeah. They're stuck in a system. That's planet A. Okay. It's all about growth. Everything is about growth. Without growth, the entire thing collapses. This is why they are doing this. Okay. So I'm saying, okay, tell them, acknowledge that. It's not your fault. You've been stuck in a system. And I'm a systems engineer. I know why you do that, but I can show you how to create a system that actually works for all of us.
It always seems to me that the enemy of the planet is culture.
Mm.
And in the Brazilian culture, it's become, and this isn't perhaps the traditional culture of the Amazon, but it has become a meat eating culture, like
Yeah,
Argentina.
yeah, it's everywhere. I mean, they're trying to push it everywhere. The meat industry is trying to push it everywhere, right? But at the same time, the original culture of the Amazonian tribes is acai
Right,
and cassava.
right.
Acai and cassava together is a complete meal, pretty much. Okay, so they used to subsist on acai and cassava for a long time.
Yeah.
Once in a while, eat animals. No, it's not like they were all vegans. I'm saying, once in a while they used to. So we have gone there and said the European way of life is better than yours, whatever it is, and that's how the culture gets changed. So it's not a culture. It's not a immutable culture. You can reverse it.
The stupidity of chopping back the Amazon
Mm.
in order to have cows graze on what was once rainforest
Yeah.
and burn the ground into desert so that people could eat the burgers, which are
Right.
often the meat is often flown to the United States,
Right.
so that we could eat the meat to give ourselves heart attacks. The stupidity of that enterprise is so mind-boggling that it just raises the question of, do we deserve to survive when we're so damn stupid?
Well, yeah. I have faith in humanity. So what can I say?
That's why I like talking to you.
Thanks, Glenn.
But
Thanks for having me.
it's just mind-boggling that anybody could think of this. Let's burn the Amazon to put cows on it so we could eat the cows and kill ourselves. As a systems engineer, would
Yeah.
anybody propose a system like that?
Yeah. It'll be laughed out of town if they did that.
It's just, I'll tell
Yeah.
you a story from the history of nutritional studies.
Mm,
Perhaps the most important nutritional study was done on some poor, innocent rabbits
mm,
in 1913 in St. Petersburg, Russia, done by a scientist named Anichkov. And
mm,
what he did was he fed cholesterol to some poor, innocent rabbits,
mm.
right? And the rabbits developed atherosclerosis. They
Mm.
developed lesions in their arteries. And that proved that when herbivores are fed cholesterol,
Yeah.
they get atherosclerosis.
Right.
Now, when he then fed the cholesterol to dogs and cats, omnivores and carnivores, they didn't get atherosclerosis. They have a way of excreting the cholesterol through the bile or something, and they don't get it. So he proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that only herbivores fed cholesterol get atherosclerosis.
Yeah.
Now, of all the mammals, who gets atherosclerosis?
Yeah.
Only humans, because we are the only herbivores stupid enough to eat cholesterol,
Right.
right? So the scientist who figures this out, Anishkov, what does he do with this knowledge? He keeps eating meat and dies of a heart attack. It's just astonishing to me.
Well, let's not be like Anushka.
No, let's figure it out.
Right.
We've determined that we are herbivores. Herbivores can't eat cholesterol or they get heart disease. So let's stop doing it. So at least, Silas, you have optimism that somehow this gets turned around
Yeah. I have
and
faith. Yeah.
you have faith and I have faith in you.
Thank you,
So
Glenn.
let's hope that by COP31 the world is starting to go vegan.
Yeah. That's
Thank
the
you,
goal.
Silas.
Thank you.
See you soon.
You soon. Bye.